All right. Welcome back. Matt, the mortgage guy here. It's live Q&A Monday. I was going to say Mortgage Mondays. That's a thing I used to do every Monday where I recorded videos. But anyhow, I'm here to answer your questions live, talk about the housing market, talk about what's going on with interest rates, with housing starts, with buyer sentiment, all that. And I'm giving you firsthand, conversations I'm having with real people, conversations I'm having with real agents, other loan originators, people in the market, people with their finger on the pulse, myself included, doing as much reading as I can lately on just what's going on, not just in my market, Northern California, but across the nation, because I can tell you, I read some pretty interesting stuff. And, in regards to housing starts, I'm really trying to follow supply and demand. And that's one thing that I keep a closer eye on than anything else, because I think that's what drives home prices more than anything. You can talk all you can about other things going on in the market and other stats, but ultimately, if there's more people on the demand side than there is supply of homes available, home prices will continue to go up. Whatever needs to happen to not only quell demand but also increase supply is the only way we're going to be in a market that becomes level or even decreases in price, right? Which I read some more stuff today about these crazy fantasies of, markets crashing across the nation, which I just don't see. We'll get into that and we'll answer any questions you have around that. But we're so far imbalanced with supply versus demand that when I see a silly stat like, Sacramento from February to March had a 16% increase in inventory. This is the beginning of the end. No, bucko. Like, inventory increases between February and March every single year. And it just so happens that it did again this year, like it does every single year. We're still at record lows of inventory. In Sacramento, where I'm at, we've probably got 3 weeks of inventory. Last I checked with the folks that are tracking the inventory levels. So that's not being fixed anytime soon. As much as people talk about housing starts and all the stuff being built, I looked at February to March housing starts. And while they're up on a nationwide level, when I looked at specific month over month and year over year for the West, I'm in California, we were down 9.59% month over month and down 10% year over year. Where they're building a ton, like a 60% increase year over year, is the Midwest. And then that's followed by the South, where they've got a 40% increase year over year. Northeast is a 10% increase. Collectively, housing starts are up 24%, which coming out of the pandemic, you should expect. Also, another thing to think about that people just don't put enough attention on, like just because we're building 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, like those are the numbers for housing starts as of late, doesn't mean we're going to be able to catch up to what was a decade-long shortage of housing starts. Like in 2010, I don't know if this one's got the numbers attached to it, but the numbers were dismal. We're only building 500,000 homes per year. And that's where, like, if we build a little bit more than the demographics show for demand, like we still have a big gap to replace for the lack of building, basically between 2010 and let's call it 2020, like a decade, right, of just not enough homes being built. So I still think that's the number one thing that people should be looking about, talking about, considering is supply versus demand. Interest rates going up will quell demand a little bit. Time will tell how much, right? And like that's something that a lot of folks track. I was reading something that was talking about the ratio between income and payment. And as the rates go up, that goes from 29 to 29.4 to 30.3 to 31.2 payment to income ratio, right? And that 31.2% payment to income ratio is at mortgage rates at 5%. Higher than normal, but not undoable. and not at a point where you're like, oh my gosh, demand is going to fall off of a cliff. Okay, let's jump into some questions. Let's say hello to some people. Fire off questions. Whatever you think, you want to know or think that I might have insight on as a mortgage broker who invests in real estate, who talks to real estate agents, who's got a finger on the pulse of the market. Please, there's no questions off limits. I'm happy to answer anything as truthful as possible. As much as folks might think that I'm a shill for real estate, or I'm just, grass is always greener. There's going to be some negative things that come out of my mouth. I don't think that grass is always greener. I don't think that everybody who applies for a refinance should do so. I don't think that everybody's in a position where they should be buying a house. So fire away, test me. I'll show you that, the honest, straightforward answer is the one you're going to get no matter what the question. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Go to greatmortgagebroker.com if you want to connect with me and my team. We're across the country. We're happy to help. Brian, Elaine, Toralba, Beehives, Fashion More. Hello there. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you coming on. Pallavi Patel, good evening. And good evening, everybody from Pallavi. Yasmin, thanks for joining. What's the interest rate for non-QM now? This is a great question for anybody who's unfamiliar. Non-QM, non-qualified mortgage is basically a product that's not a conventional, or a government-backed loan. It's a portfolio product to a certain extent, right? The most popular non-QM loans are one of two types of loans. A bank statement loan, where you show the last 6, 12, or 24 months of your bank statements and use that as qualifying income, or what's called a debt service coverage ratio loan. This one's gained a ton of popularity. Tons of companies are doing it. And essentially what it gets in rent has to cover what the payment is. Debt service coverage, right? So the debt service on it, the payment is $1,800. It rents for $2,000. You're good. You've got to have good credit. You got to have a down payment. The other factors need to apply. But that's essentially how it works. Those, Yasmin, depending on cost, right? You can have one that costs 2 points. You can have one that costs a point. You can have cost no points. I'm generally seeing them in the 6s. Sure, if you put 40% down and pay a point, you could probably get something in the mid 5s. But just for an average of what most people are going to pay, expect those rates to be in the 6s. For a long time, those things hung out in the 5s, and investment property loans got into the 5s, and we're like, man, there wasn't that big of a spread. If I was buying a triplex with a conventional loan, I might have been 5.25, and then I was buying it with a debt service coverage ratio loan, I was only 5.75. Those were close. The DSCR, the non-QM sector, has had to bump up their rates to basically not get just an influx of demand, probably from all the people that would just be like, why don't I just do that loan instead of the conventional stuff? So anyhow, in the 6s is the short answer. Good evening, Kevin. Thanks for joining from Florida. Good seeing you here, man. Hope all is well with you out there. All right, Corey Brunson. Thanks for joining. I don't know if I want to answer your question or Demos Papalapis. Let me get to my buddy Demos real quick. This is an awesome question, and it just so happens to be great timing. Tomorrow at 2:00, I recorded a video on ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages, last Thursday or Friday, and it's going to be out tomorrow at 2 p.m. here on YouTube. Humongous, well, a good increase in ARM loans. Where ARM loans are generally the best option from what I've seen, just from me looking at it as a mortgage guy, a math guy, and my own personal opinion, is on the jumbo loans. I was doing scenarios for clients who were buying $1.5, $2 million homes, putting 20% down, and they can get an ARM in the 3s versus a 30-year fixed in the high 4s. A 1% difference in interest rate is a huge, for some of these clients I was showing options to, it's $1,000 difference on their monthly payment. $1,000. And I'm talking about a 7 and 10 year ARM. One client who we just got into contract, was back and forth, not knowing, should I do a 5-year, a 7-year, a 10-year? I'm not really sure. We looked at the pricing. The 10-year pricing was not that much more expensive than the 5 or 7. So take the extra few years of peace of mind, right? And go with the 10-year. That video is going to be out tomorrow where I kind of show that. I talk about the pros and cons. Obviously, adjustable rate scares people. It's higher risk, but it's 10 years. 10 years of the fixed rate. The way ARMs work, the way adjustable rate mortgages work, it's got a term where it's fixed and then it adjusts. So a 10-year ARM is fixed for 10 years before it starts adjusting. That seems relatively low risk if you're a type of person who has your ducks in a row, you have an exit plan, you know what you're going to do. You're not necessarily going to be stuck, right? Where you would run into trouble, you do a 5-year ARM, you do a 7-year ARM. After that time period, you may not qualify for a new loan. Who knows where interest rates are? If that thing's able to adjust up 5 points to 875, that could get you in trouble. But if you've got a plan, if you're responsible and you're, credit worthy to get a loan in the future and refinance out of it, I think it's a great option for a lot of people. All right, Corey, let's check out this HOA deal. The HOA for my high-rise building has decided to stop increasing HOA fees every year in exchange for yearly assessments. Do lenders have to take in account past assessments? It seems to be a strategy to make the building more attractive than other buildings nearby for buyers to qualify easier. I'm not sure I know what you mean by yearly assessments. Like they're going to assess you like a fee every year, but it's not necessarily baked into the price. So if somebody goes and sees $200 HOA, it looks nice, easier to qualify, but then there's a $2,000 assessment every year. I think that's what you're saying. Interesting way to go about it. I've never seen that. And so I wonder, it would be hard for lenders to know how, if it's just assessment straight from HOA to client, it's not anything that's like interesting. Very interesting. All right. Good evening to LinkedIn user. Ryan Lundquist, my dude. What was I going to ask you? I had a question for you. I think I took a guess at Sacramento inventory. Where are we at, man? 17 days, 19 days, 21 days, whatever it is. I thought it was really funny when I saw a video earlier where they showed this huge uptick in inventory, and they literally showed Northern California. Like, look at these huge numbers up from February to March. And it was like, well, no shit. Like February to March, inventory increases every year. It's not a surprise. And you would know better than me because I haven't taken the time to look at the numbers, like what the average year-over-year increase is from February to March. Is 16% in Sacramento above average? I know for sure inventory-wise, we're still well below like pre-pandemic inventory levels. So anyhow, this one that talked about our crash is coming because inventory levels are up. Here it comes. Here comes all the inventory and we're crashing. I thought was pretty funny. You'd have the data more than I would to support that. So let me know what you got on current housing inventory data for Sacramento, what it is maybe year over year from March to March, and then what it is month over month, February to March, like last year versus this year. All right, Dan Hunter. I'm happy to give you my thoughts. Right or wrong, I'll tell you. Doing a portfolio 20-year at 4.75 adjustable after 5 years or 30-year fixed at 6.75. 20 seems better, but do you think after 5 years our interest rates will still be low? Man, this is a tough question to answer. And I guess there's other factors that play into it, but I'll make some assumptions. So I'm not like a politician where I'm just ducking the question. Assumptions like, is it your primary? Is it investment property? How long do you plan on holding it? All those things play into this decision. and also your risk tolerance, right? There's a lot of people I know that just say fixed 6.7, adjustable 4.7, just take the fixed. I don't have to worry about any adjustments or whatnot. There's other people that are like, man, I'm going to save 2% every single year. If you're borrowing $500,000, that's, $10,000 in interest you save every single year, like 50 grand over the next 5 years. They'll take that as long as they have an exit plan. If rates adjust, or go up in the future, like how much will they go up? There's some people that might say rates could be 8% in 5 years. There's a cohort of folks who are talking, and I'm not talking cuckoos on YouTube like me. I'm talking about smart people that are talking about if we have a recession after the Fed has done everything they've done to monetary policy to squash inflation, in response to the recession and all these recessionary pressures, the Fed might pull back. And after they've done 5 or 6 rate increases, they're going to have the room to be able to pull back on interest rates. And they might pull rates back down in 23 or 24. So 5 years from now, rates could be 4%, rates could be 8%. I'm not one to tell you, hey, here's exactly what's going to happen, because let's be honest, I don't know. But I think it would depend on your tolerance level, how long you're going to keep the home, and then your game plan coming out. If you're self-employed or you've got other factors where you don't even know what mortgage products will be available in 5 years, that probably has you lean towards 6.75, because that's another factor. During different economic cycles and environments, you may or may not have certain mortgage products. Just because something exists today or you qualify today doesn't mean in 3 or 5 years, DSCR loans still exist. Bank statement loans still exist. Self-employed borrowers might have different, requirements to get a loan. Even as a W-2 borrower, if the world collapses, 2010, 2011, it was hard to get a loan, right? So anyhow, those are some things to consider. Hopefully that was helpful. Al Bundy, does a title report matter to lenders? For sure. Lenders want the title report. They want clean title. That is something that for sure can kill a deal if there's issues, liens. What do they call it? Like not smudges on title, clouds on title. For sure, a lender cares about title. Matt Bittner, are rates higher than last week? I don't think so. I think they're actually a little lower. We saw a couple days of down. I'm going to go to my trusted 30-year from what was last Friday? Was April 1st. So last Monday was like the 28th. Last Monday, the average across the nation, whatever the heck this is like a survey, like a mortgage survey, was 4.95%. And today it says 4.84%. Again, based on your credit score, based on a lot of different stuff. Your rate could be higher, it could be lower. But in response to this question, Matt, we've got a slightly lower. I'll share this with you. I tell people too, Mortgage News Daily, if you're just looking for kind of a guesstimate of what mortgage rates are at, you can go here. I didn't go through it, but basically all I typed on the top was I clicked on mortgage rates, boom, from their start. And then I clicked on 30-year. If you're looking at 30-year, and then they've got the fancy graph. You can see how much we've gone up since last August. And then below this, it tells you daily. Might be tough to read on the screen, but 4.84 is what it is today. Like a rate survey from lenders across the nation. Last Monday, 4.95. So slightly lower. That is what the interwebs are telling me. Slightly lower than a week ago. There you have it. Stop screen. All right. Brian Elaine Toralba, still in the process of buying a new construction house. Just a conditional loan approval and still not locked. The rate and closing is like months away. Paid earnest money already. Should I lock once available? This is a great question. I literally had a conversation today. Somebody referred me a client whose build was going to be done in September. They wanted to know my opinion on whether they should lock, what their options were. There's all kinds of lenders that have 180-day locks. So it's certainly out there. Lenders are going to price in that added risk of being 6 months away. So you shouldn't expect the 4.75 or the 4.875 that you can get on a 30-day lock to be the same for a 180-day lock. You might pay a point for that same rate if it's a 180-day lock. You might lock it at 5.125 or 5.25. But what you're doing is you're assuring yourself that if rates go to 5.5, you're locked in at 5.25, 5.125, or even the same interest rate with a little bit of cost baked in. I would say for most people, it's a good idea to lock it in. You just don't know what's going to happen. And truth be told, I think a couple factors for me, a simpleton, that would push interest rates up in these next few months in Q2. One, Russia, Ukraine, and everything that's going on over there in terms of how it affects mortgage. It's uncertainty. And when there's uncertainty, it tends to help mortgage interest rates. We all hope that there's some resolution over there, that some sort of peace treaty, some sort of peace comes about. And when it does, I think that causes rates to go up because that uncertainty goes away. That's factor one. Factor two, in my opinion, is that everybody expects the Fed to continue to 50 basis points here, 50 basis points there, 25 basis points there, hike up the Fed funds rate, which not direct correlation, but close enough. It's going to pull up the 30-year fixed rate mortgage over time, all mortgage rates for that matter. What is not necessarily clear to folks yet is how fast, how aggressive the Fed is going to be with selling the 8 or 9 trillion of mortgage-backed securities that's on their balance sheet. If they do that at a pace that's faster than people expect, if they do that, in any way that surprises the market, that catches the market off guard, that will have an effect on interest rates. And I think that can push interest rates up. So anyhow, long story short, I think you lock. That's my final answer. Benjamin Fajardo. Great question. Is it possible to get a conventional loan when you had a foreclosure over 6 years and under 7 years ago with good credit? Unfortunately, the conventional guideline states that you need to be 7 years from that foreclosure date. And you've got to find that date so you have for sure that date, because there'll be a bunch of different dates involved with not just foreclosure, but bankruptcy. And like this date was the date, this happened, this date. You want the actual date of the foreclosure. You can get other loan types. You can get FHA loans after foreclosure, but until you reach that 7-year mark, you're truly not eligible to do a conventional loan. People will tell you that there's an exception rule, but I can tell you with absolute certainty, like you've got to have a grandiose reason to get an exception. So I would just count on it being a 7-year wait. If you're between 6 and 7 years, you're close. And so you've got a couple options. One, go FHA. If you want or need to buy right now, or a great opportunity comes up, refinance it into a conventional loan 6 months or 12 months down the road when you've reached that 7-year mark, or wait for the 7-year mark and buy then. Really up to you. And it would depend on, if a great deal comes along, sometimes it's like, all right, we got to buy now. Let's buy FHA. All right, LinkedIn user, the next Fed meeting, not everybody, most people are predicting 50 basis point uptick from the Fed. Yeah, you're probably right, Matt. I think that like the market expects 2 more rate hikes. They probably, based on Jerome Powell's past, Don't expect him to hit them with a couple 50s in a row. If he hits them with the 50 spot twice in a row and goes 50 basis points, rates might be a quarter higher. That's my guess, right? If he goes 50 and 25, or God forbid he goes 25, rates could remain the same. Again, there's other factors. There's, socioeconomic, there's how they treat the balance sheet and the runoff of the balance sheet and whatnot. But I would say if he hits them with a couple 50s and I were to, have to put a number on where rates are at, quarter higher than today. Kind of a guess, but what else am I going to do? About 3 weeks of inventory. Yeah, that's what I thought. So like this whole notion of like inventory is up 16% in Sacramento. This is the beginning of the end. We got 3 friggin' weeks of inventory. Like we got nothing. Modest seasonal uptick, much lower than normal. That's what I thought. See, like when I talk to smart people that are actually tracking it, then we get that, right? If I'm watching some FUD YouTube, the sky is falling crash stuff, which I mean, it's good, man. It makes good news. So I watch it. Then right, like these 16, 20, 22% increases from February to March, they look like this is the beginning of the end, which I mean, it makes for a good story, right? If you didn't know any better, you might believe that stuff. And I'm guessing by the number of clicks and views these friggin' videos get, people are believing this crap. Oh, Corey, this is messed up, bro. Me and my son were at the Kings game last night. The Warriors, minus Klay Thompson and minus Steph Curry, still put a whooping on us. In our defense, we had no Sabonis, we had no Fox. But to your point, Corey, we clinched it. We cannot make even the play-in this year, so we got 16-year playoff drought, a record that might never be broken in the NBA. But we've got some of the most loyal fans in the world. We're making the playoffs next year. And I don't think rates are going below 4% next year. Man, this is a pretty good bet though, right here. I'll give you an A for creativity on this one, Corey, even though it hurts my heart as a Kings fan. Oh man, that ain't right. All right. Christina's got my back. Kings make the playoffs. There we go. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm if I haven't said that already. I think that's what you're supposed to say. I don't know if it helps. It's a good question, Demos. I don't really know. I do some condo stuff, but not a humongous volume of condos to have past experience where an HOA assessment. I mean, even if the maybe it would show like due, and then we've got to put it like on the net sheet, and the buyer's got like an assessment due April 25th on a place we're closing of $1,500. That's a great question, though. I don't know how that works. HOA assessment, because per the earlier question, I can't remember who had it. Are we going to factor in that HOA assessment into the debt to income ratio? And how would they do it, right? Look at like last year's assessment, the year before, and this year, and like take an average? Very good questions. All right. Demos, a Sacramento guy, saying hi to Ryan Lundquist, another Sacramento guy. Do I got this banner up here somewhere? We got to shout out SacramentoAppraisalBlog.com. That's amazing, amazing blog, especially if you're in the Sacramento area and you want to see some cool stats and some cool insight into the real estate market. No matter where you're at, check out SacramentoAppraisalBlog.com. Just good information on real estate in general, housing market stuff in general. The cool part is that appraisal blog lives on for years and years, and stuff that you've made in the past, Ryan, keeps coming back and providing value to people, which I've kind of seen with YouTube content, which is cool. Like a video you made 2 years ago, like, oh my gosh, this is relevant today. Check it out. anyhow, kudos to you, brother, for that great one. Thanks, Dunn. I appreciate it. Dunn Anderson Mortgages, wherever the heck you at in the country, I appreciate you. That's what we got to do, man. Is put out as much good information as possible. Hopefully, it outweighs some of like the stuff that sells. I don't blame media outlets or news articles or YouTube folks, but like, geez Louise, man, like if it bleeds, it leads. And so they're going to talk about like the craziest stuff. Imagine if like you listened to somebody and you were a buyer in Tampa, Florida in 2021. The sky is falling. Don't buy. I'm going to share with you guys some home price increases in the last year, where if you listened to some of these folks and said, I'm going to hold off because people are saying crash is coming. Tampa, Florida, 33%. Austin, Texas, 33%. Raleigh, North Carolina, 32.8%. Phoenix, Arizona, 32%. Nashville, Tennessee, 31.5%. Jacksonville, Florida, 29.5%. Las Vegas, 28%. Miami, 27%. San Diego, 27%. Dude, the lowest home price growth rates, like we're talking about number 100, Minneapolis, Minnesota, still 10%. That's crazy. You could be number 100. You could be in the lower end of that and still have gone up 10%. And somebody told you in 2021, like prices have gone up for long enough, they've got to crash. So you shouldn't buy. And you could have bought it for 10% cheaper and a 3% interest rate. Gosh darn it, man. That's the people I have the most empathy for. Wanted to buy, thought about buying, because of fear or because of doubt, said, nah, I better hold off. And it got 10% more expensive on the price and 2% more expensive on the rate. That is a blow. Theo B, if you like it, lock it. Did you see that article? There was an article where they actually quoted that when they're asking me about if, when, and how you lock interest rates. I think it was U.S. News. And I gave them that quote. They liked it. And they used it in the article. It's pretty cool. So it still applies. I mean, there's so much uncertainty in mortgage where, you know, if you're buying, there's no reason at all with the upward trend in mortgage rates to think about it, float it, gamble. Just if you like it, lock it. All right, Matthew, here's something. It already sounds like a unique scenario. If purchasing a property via seller financing using collection escrow, will I still be able to get conventional on a separate property? Will the loan officer just go off the sale docs and payment ledger? I'm not sure what you're asking here. So you're going to purchase a property with seller financing and you're trying to get conventional financing on a separate property. I guess your question is, like, how are they going to factor this into your debt to income ratio? Because it won't show up on your credit. You got ownership in the house. Yeah, I mean, I think you would provide whatever documents you guys have drawn up, and I'm sure like there's got to be a note involved. There's got to be some sort of payment schedule or agreement, right? Where you're going to pay them X% interest at X dollars per month over X amount of time. And so they would go off that, I would imagine. Haven't seen a lot of that, even though these last couple of years I've seen more and more creative seller financing, or at least like deals put together off market in various different ways with various different terms of financing. But yeah, I mean, there's hard money type stuff where the hard money lender doesn't necessarily report it to the credit bureaus, but we've got closing docs, loan docs that were put together through the hard money lender and the borrower, similar to what I think you should have in place with a seller finance deal, where you're still going to have a monthly payment and a note saying, how much you borrowed at what rate and all that other stuff. So yeah, that's the type of stuff you're going to want to provide. Congrats, Christina. Locked in at 3.625 on a VA loan. VA loan rates are still amazing. The folks who deserve it more than anybody, I think a lot of folks would agree with that. The veterans of this country getting great 30-year fixed sub 4% with no mortgage insurance and 0% down financing. Like the VA loans for those that are eligible, those that earned that eligibility, are a great way to buy. I'm glad you locked in right when you got accepted. I'm glad you got an offer accepted because there's a lot of talk about how it's harder sometimes to get a VA offer accepted. So kudos to you. Congratulations. If I could make fireworks appear on the screen, if I was advanced and techie like that, I would shoot some fireworks. Congratulations, Christina. I love to hear the happy stories. You know, there's enough bellyache and sorrow in the market right now. So the happy stories of getting offers accepted, keep those coming. Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan. When the numbers are so low, you know, 16% uptick doesn't mean a lot, right? Because if we're this far behind and we get a little 16% uptick and we're still below, you know, the average, it's just like comparing stats when you've got, you know, rent, like some sort of moratorium in place. And then it gets lifted and you're like, oh my gosh, look at the foreclosure numbers. They're up 300%. Well, they're up 300% because you started with a low number. You know, per Ryan Lundquist's blog, when you look at certain markets or pieces of a market, if you start with a market that's got a $60,000 price point in 2011, they're going to show a 600% appreciation. Well, you have a $500,000 neighborhood, you're not going to see 600% appreciation because going from 60 to 360 is a lot easier than going from 500 to a $3 million property. And if you remember, Ryan, I think 600% increase was your stats for the Oak Park area in Sacramento, which back, you know, 2011, I think you could buy properties for 40 to 60,000. So that was where I pulled those numbers from. Man, I seem to be using Ryan's stuff all over the place. What would I do without that guy? Viva Matt. All right, I'm with it. Gary Lee, it's a great question. HELOCs, home equity lines of credit, are more and more popular as people have a ton of equity. And some of these people, a lot of these people, since there was, you know, 70% of conventional loans that are in existence were written in the last 24 months, have a low interest rate, you know, 3%, low threes, sub 3% mortgage rate. A cash out refinance may not be the best option. They might want to get a home equity line of credit. Where do I see these going? I see them going up. They have no place but to go up. When the Fed hikes the Fed funds rate, no doubt, like every single index that these HELOCs are tied to will go up. So it's more important than ever to read the fine print of your home equity line of credit. What is the starting rate? How long is that starting rate fixed? When does it adjust? How much can it adjust? What is it tied to? Because different ones are, some are tied to the prime rate, some are tied to this index, some are tied to that index. You've got to see. I know that if you're risk averse, you want to find a home equity line of credit that has a fixed rate. They exist, right? You just got to look for it. You might have to pay a higher interest rate, but if you don't want the risk of the home equity line of credit adjusting, being an adjustable rate, then opt for the 5.5% fixed or whatever it is, right? You might get a 2.99 introductory rate for 6 months. And then after that, it's going to adjust however much it adjusts every 6 months. You know, it might turn into a 8.99. If you're borrowing 10 grand or 20 grand, maybe that's not a big deal. If you pull $100,000 line of credit, it might be a big deal. So some stuff to consider. Tampa. Oh, that was in response to me talking about 33.2% home price appreciation. Holy guacamole. All right, we're getting haircut comments. All right, you guys know the secret is expert haircuts. They just raised their prices from $9.99 to $10.99. So Inflation's happening everywhere, even at my hole in the wall haircut place. I'm telling you, they'll get it done in 4 minutes. Just tell them, what is it? 1 on the sides, a little bit of a line, short on the top, bingo, bango, bongo. Sophia, this is so friggin' true, dude. The algorithm on YouTube with respect to housing is toxic. And you're right, because the stuff that's fear-based, the stuff that's catchy, but if you think about it, like that's just how everything works. Like all of social media, all of the news outlets, YouTube, like everything. Like if it's catchy, if it's a topic that's controversial, that's the stuff that gets clicks. God forbid we get on here and try to financially educate people in the proper way. Then it's like, whatever. So in the defense of good information online, smash the like button, share this with somebody. Good information, I think, over time, if it's shared enough and pushed enough, some people will find it, right? But yeah, it's tough. And really the thing about it is like it's become such a problem, Sophia, that these big channels, like I don't know if they're selling anything. I don't know what they're doing with all the viewership, right? I'll be perfectly like transparent with providing educational content on YouTube for me and my business. Like in return, I get a client here and there. I also get a lot of feel good knowing that like people that don't even use us or our services got in contract, got this VA locked at 3.625. All that stuff feels good. I get a sense of feel good from it. But like there's people on YouTube that I know are trying to create businesses out of like getting subscribers and views to their channel. Because channels with nothing but housing crash, fear, uncertainty, and doubt have 200,000 subscribers and get millions of views every month. Do they provide value? Like, I don't think so. Anyhow, enough on that. Man, that tangent. Oh, it's a tough one. S-Smack. I like to keep it as honest as possible. And for me to tell you, I know what's going to happen with the Arizona housing market would be an absolute lie. I don't have a very good finger on the pulse of Arizona housing. I know that Arizona housing has seen quite the increase. What was the one that showed up on here? Phoenix is up 32%. But it's going to be as other markets as well. Like very, like you can't say Arizona as a whole is going to do X, Y, or Z, right? There might be Phoenix that goes flat and you don't see any price appreciation in 2023. Total guess, right? You might see, Flagstaff and Scottsdale and these other parts do something different. You might see some more rural areas in Arizona actually go up 15% while the rest of the market stays flat. So it's not like Arizona as a whole is going to do a certain thing, but truth be told, to give any true like insight on what specific markets in Arizona are going to do, I don't know. I know that with supply versus demand imbalance where I'm at in California, a lot of markets we do business in, Arizona included, like that is imbalanced enough to where it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot to see slowing or huge hit. And those are the two words you use, slowing or huge hit. I can see a slowing, like 33% in Phoenix is ridiculous. Will that slow to 12? We hope so, right? But take a huge hit, like down 20%, very unlikely. All right, Sunbreeze. I want to buy a home in California that's on discount. What season is a good time to buy? Well, if you're looking for a discount, this is the best piece of advice I've ever got. You can poop in this hand and you can hope in this one and see which one fills up first. Sorry, bad joke. I don't think you're finding any big discounts anytime soon. if you're buying it as your primary residence and you plan to live in it for extended period, 7+ years, 10+ years, then I think that it's like investing in the stock market. You're not trying to time it, right? You're just trying to get in, and time in the market is better than timing the market. So I don't know, like the winter historically is where less people, like people that are selling are more, they've got a reason to sell. Like the spring and summer months where there's a lot of action and a lot of sales going on, tends to be where people historically have gotten the most amount for their house, right? And so in the winter, it's like you only sell if you have to sell because you're moving to, another state or whatnot. So maybe you can find a deal in the winter, but I wouldn't wait on that, nor would I bank on that. I would just say when you're ready to buy, when you're qualified, when the job situation, saving situation, budget, and your payment that you can afford is within reach, that's when you pull the trigger. You don't try to time the market. My opinion. Anoop, thanks for joining. This would be cool if this was my buddy Anoop who used to play cards at Limelight Card Room. Maybe not, but man, that dude Anoop that was in Sacramento was a cool dude. So I'm always going to love that name. Schedule for July. July is the 7th month. April's the 4th. Quick math. We're 3 months away. You can certainly do a 90-day, 120-day lock. I would recommend locking now, Anoop. Whatever lender you're currently working with, ask them about the lock. Ask them about the float down options. I saw one recently where I asked them. They didn't know what the float down options were. So I said, ask. Every lender is going to be different. This person who I talked to, who asked the builder, like, hey, what are my float down options? For people who don't know, you lock in today at a 4.99. Rates, for whatever reason, go down in the future. They'll allow you to float down to that lower rate. Usually it's only one time you can float down. There's other caveats to it. This one was you could only float down if the rate got a quarter better. You could only do it within 8 days of closing. Weird rule. But hey, like each specific lender, they're lending the money. They're going to make their own friggin' rules, right? So, yeah, find out what the terms are of that float down. Celine Realtor. Sport cuts, they're charging $25. I take my kids into expert haircuts. This place is not fancy. And they don't spend more than 8 minutes per child or per me, but me and my boys go in there. Haircut's a haircut, right? I don't know. I'm a simple dude. All right, Antonio. Me and my 3 siblings want to buy an investment property, but our loan officer told us we can't qualify because I'm living rent-free and lender won't let us use rental income from the property. Is this true? If you don't have rent history and you don't own anything right now and you're trying to buy a rental property, unfortunately, this is true. So the 4 of you combined can't qualify for the property without using rental income from the property. I think that's what I'm getting out of this. You can get a second opinion. You can feel free to reach out to us, greatmortgagebroker.com. I think, unfortunately, Antonio, this one's, a Fannie Freddie rule that's not going to, change talking to a different lender, but, maybe there's some other things within the file that can be restructured or moved around. So, yeah, best of luck to you guys. All right. Dunn Anderson. He's in Arizona. He can give us some Arizona insight. Most of the business in Arizona, housing starts are lower. People are still moving there. Huge imbalance, just like California. Yeah. So it's like, where is this housing crash coming from? We're not building fast enough. We don't have enough homes, and demand is still on fire. Here's something I will give folks. I'll give this to the FUD folks, right? So even a guy who loves real estate, bullish on a real estate investor, I think it's a good long-term play for just about anybody. Demand is going to pull back. not as much as some people think, because I think that like as much as people are sensitive to interest rates, we just live in a payment-based society where you either can afford the payment or not. And people want all the benefits of home ownership, the appreciation, the debt pay down, the tax write-off, all of that stuff. It still applies. Would you rather pay $2,100 than $2,400? Of course. But when you're presented with, okay, rates have gone up and now the payment's $2,400, and oh, by the way, all the stuff in that neighborhood you're looking at that was renting for $2,000 2 years ago is now renting for $2,500 or $2,600 a month. So do you want to spend $35,000 in rent, or do you want to buy a house? $35,000 a year. Rough numbers, not exact math. People are still going to buy. Just one man's opinion, and I'm just some guy on YouTube. Oh, for sure, Justin, we got you. No problem. Yeah, reach out. Let's get you pre-approved and ready to roll. A lot of folks right now that we're doing this for, where if you want to run numbers, it's in your best interest. Get yourself pre-approved. Have a full file. The last thing you want to do is have an opportunity present itself and you're not ready. Application, supporting docs, pre-approved. Not only do you have the pre-approval letter, but you have, here's what it looks like at 600 with 10% down. Here's what it looks like at 650. Jump on my calendar. Hey, Matt, I don't know if we should sell and buy this place forward. I don't know if we should keep it. Let's talk through it. I've got investments. I know about investing a little bit. My team is versed on investing. You know, you've got a 21-25 payment on a house where you've got a 2.75% interest rate. You can rent it for $2,600. Let's figure out a way to keep that. You know, it's going to kick you off a few $100 a month. It's going to continue appreciating in value. That's smoking low interest rate. $700 or $800 a month is going towards the principal. Let's keep that in the portfolio. Let's add that $100,000 a year in net worth to your net worth, right? And that's something that people don't take into consideration is, you know, the true beauty of appreciating real estate is when you own enough of it to where year over year appreciation, debt pay down, like in their sleep, people are adding $50,000, $60,000, $100,000 per year to their net worth. If you think about somebody who owns 2 homes in California in not the greatest of neighborhoods, those 2 homes are worth $1 million. If home prices go up 15%, it's $150,000. $150,000 in net worth equity, right? The pay down of the mortgages, $500, $600, $800 a month with these really low interest rates we got. That might be 10, 12, 15,000 per property on those 2 properties, right? So it's another 30 grand. And maybe you saved $5 or $6 grand on taxes, you know, 200,000 added to your net worth by owning 2 houses. Not too bad, not too shabby. Some people are breaking their back working for the man for less than that. Anyhow. This is a great question, Matt. And really, like from everything I'm seeing, it's a no. You know, do foreign buyers buy some properties? Yes. Do they have children and grandchildren and U.S. based folks getting gift funds to buy homes? Yes. Is it a humongous number? No. It's kind of like cash buyers, right? Like cash buyers make up a certain percent of the home buyers, but it's not 50%. It's not 75%. It's 15%. So not very much. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Sunbreeze. Every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here, live on YouTube, answering your questions, trying to provide some value. If you continue to show up, I'll continue to show up. If I provide enough value, you'll continue to show up more. So appreciate having you here. I mean, that's not a bad rule of thumb. Kyle, but I think that like the bank statement stuff probably is like 6.5 now. So maybe a better rule of thumb is like 1.5% above what you're seeing. If you're seeing 4.75 or 4.875 on the 30-year conventional stuff, maybe 6.25, 6.375 on the bank statement is what you should expect. So your thinking is right, but maybe make it 1.5%. You can always refinance to a lower rate. If lower rates come in the future, you can always refinance for sure. Hey, we're ready to roll, Justin. We got a bunch of folks doing some 1031 action. Go to, you know what you can do, Justin? A bunch of different ways. If you're a past client of ours, just email me, matt@mtmg.com. Let me know what you're looking to do. We'll get you a new link to a new application. We'll get you started. We'll get you rolling. Happy to help, man. Happy to help. Adrian Ortiz, locked in a great rate. That's awesome, man. Good to hear. Thanks for being here to support the channel. I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody who's watching. Got about an hour in. Got a lot of work to do. I got a lot of buyers I'm trying to help right now. It's a tough market. I'm reaching out to the list side. I'm schmoozing them the best I can. What I'm doing and what you can do as a home buyer, which I think will help, is get yourself pre-approved. Do the work up front. Every single day I talk to people that are turned off by us wanting to do a verification of employment, by us wanting to put in extra work to really dial in their pre-approval. Dot all the I's, cross all the T's. What that does for you, it should give you peace of mind. We tell you you're pre-approved. We tell you we can get a loan done. We can get a loan to the finish line, right? And we're going to communicate that to the list side. People know when we have a pre-approval attached to your offer and I call and I tell them, listen, we do a lot of loans. We don't take shortcuts. When we have a fully pre-approved file, we make it to the finish line. In order to do that, in order to say that, in order for that to be true coming out of my mouth, we have to do the work up front. I've had 2 or 3 clients over the last week say, I don't want to do that. The other lender didn't make me do that. No, why would you need to contact my employer and get a breakdown of my pay for last year's? Why would you want to do that? Well, newsflash, we're going to have to do it eventually. So you either do it now in the pre-approval stage and we get you dialed in, or you do it when you're in process after you paid for inspections, pay for the appraisal, and then you get the sad truth back that because of how they average your income, you can no longer get a loan. So if you're in the market to buy and you're ready, get yourself pre-approved. It might show you stuff you didn't think about. You might look at different price points and go, you know what? I can afford more than I thought, or maybe a little bit less than I thought. Maybe I've got to look in this neighborhood. But get the information. We're happy to provide it so that you can be an educated home buyer. An educated home buyer is a confident home buyer, is one that's able to go out and look at properties and go, okay, fire on that one. 675, 10% down. I'm ready to go. Whatever the numbers are, right? But without doing that, just guessing, trying to do it the least work possible and have sufficient and dialed in answers, it just doesn't work like that, right? And I get that stuff all day, every day. I want to help you, but in order to help you, I need some information from you. So rant over. If you're looking to get pre-approved, if you're looking, for answers on a refinance or anything to do with mortgage, me and my team are more than happy to help. Where'd it go? There it is. greatmortgagebroker.com. Go there. It's quick. It's easy. You fill out the form. Let us know where you're at, how we can help. We'll be in touch. And hopefully we can help you on this home buying journey. Hope to see you guys back next week. Any and all questions we can answer, I'm more than happy to. This is probably the best place to do it. Or go find me on social, Matt the Mortgage Guy. I'm all over the place. I'm having fun on TikTok. I'm recording YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all the places, man. I'm there. Until next time, we gon' see.